this this pattern that keeps arising, you feel a response to it, and right now as we're talking about it, you'll feel it noticeably in the legs, noticeably in the chest. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so what I'm going to invite you to do is take a deep breath, and as you breathe out, turn attention into the legs and into the chest where it seemed to have some activity. Use some interoception, some turning attention inward,
Mm.
and proprioception, really noticing the position in space. So breathe a little deeper than you would normally breathe, a little slower than you would normally breathe. And as you turn attention into the feelings in the body, what happens next?
Um, it sort of feels like my body wants to put action to it. So, like in my legs, I don't know if it's the fight or flight response, but I want to run. Like it's
Okay,
kind of an energy that I want to do something with that, put
that's
action to.
that's wonderful. Let's go with that. What I'm going to invite you to do is consider, as you breathe and as you keep tracking the sensation, consider which direction you would want to run, or if it comes more to mind, how your legs would want to run. If they actually have a certain motion pattern, then move it. But consider what direction you would want to run and how far. We're sort of engaging in a process of permission.
Mm.
The question being, this part of me, if you could run, show me where, show me how far, show me what direction.
I'm not really getting a specific direction, but it's sort of a need to run until the energy sort of goes away.
Okay, gotcha. In that case,
Well,
let's get a feeling for speed. Because there's certain submodal pieces of it all. There's the idea of like I want to move, I want to go, I want to get away, and I want it
mm,
bad. And then we get these really incipient sort of like partial feelings of okay, it could be in this direction, it could be about this fast, it could be about this intense or this hard, with this much this level of energy or intensity. And do you get a feeling for that, for about how fast or about how hard it would want to run to discharge that energy?
surprisingly, it's not um, like as fast as possible as I would kind of expect it for a fight or flight response. But I don't know. It's because they feel sort of my legs feel sort of weak at the same time. So I feel like it would be I don't know a jog. I suppose like there's some reluctance to run, but also a distinct need to run anyway.
Uh-huh. So a distinct need to run, and yet you can feel the inertia, the reluctance really pulling back.
Yeah.
Right. And so let's go ahead and start a dialogue. We started with bottom up sensation. We did a quick body scan to get connection, and then you started to work with this part that has a flight energy, and yet it's this that either futility or that thwarting or something that reluctance. So let's go ahead and talk to it as if it's a person. And if we have enough bodily connection, if there's enough wiring connected underneath, we're going to be able to go deeper into this. And so I'll suggest that you take a deep breath and send a message down to wherever the general direction of this part of you seems to be. And just ask her, it seems like you both want to run and you're having some hesitance to run. Can you tell me more about that? Are you hesitant to run?
I think there is definitely some hesitance to run. It's sort of like linked to the situation I'm thinking about where I know that the easiest response would be to just run and block it and pretend it's not there. But at the same time, there's a part of me that knows that I should stay and like deal with it properly.
Uh-huh. Gotcha. And so really one of these common conflicts that come up in difficult situations, the rewards even if there's not a real reward, it's really proper to stay. It's really proper to deal with it. The best things are going to come from not running.
Mm.
So the conflict is on the inside. And so when you reached out to that part of you, did there seem to be either a feeling response or a verbal response that came up inside?
Sort of like a swelling of the hesitance, like I suppose because I'm acknowledging it, it's kind of stepping forward a bit more.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so it's stepping forward a bit more. And so that feeling of hesitance, and you were able to translate it very clearly into words, you know? I mean, really, this is part of the value of the process of bringing the body in. Our body is such an informant, of our
Mm.
inner conflicts and difficulties, and the potential resolution that comes with bringing consciousness in. And so deep breath in. Let's send a message validating that, I feel like the hesitance, the need to work through this properly is becoming more and more clear as we talk. And you can just ask this part something to the effect of, um, so uh, if this is so important to you, can you tell me more about what you want? And you certainly don't have to tell me anything that goes on in the internal dialogue, but we can talk about it in general terms.
Mm. I'm feeling some like quite severe like resistance um to that. Kind of like I don't know, a mind blank or an emotional blank, like the blocking.
Uh-huh. And so this is probably the perfect time to really validate how hard it is to be seen, how hard it is to have this tender material brought out. It may be good at this point to take another deep breath and send a message of this is hard. It's hard to be talking about this. It's hard to be having this uncovered. And see if we're sort of pinging it for a response. Is it going to say like, yes, yes, it is hard, or is it going to say like, no, you don't get me?
Mm. I'm sort of feeling like the feeling has moved like so it's not so much in my legs anymore, but more like in my throat. So I don't know, like a tightening of the throat.
Okay, so either way, when we've got a tightening of the throat, something through the vagal channel for certain, um, this is a good time to at the very least stay with it. I can't help but wonder, Eva, if there is something that just has been, I mean, unacknowledged or mourned. It's hard to ever tell exactly what's going on unless we get really explicit memories coming up, or surrounding circumstances from the past coming up. But this is a worthy time to actually engage in the present with this movement that's occurring within you. We might want to do some sort of parallel parallel bilateral stimulation. And so I'm going to suggest you take hands to alternate shoulders, okay? Like you're crossing. And then just like with this havening maneuver, stroking down to the elbows and then breathing while you continue to sort of just lift the hands up and stroke again, and turning attention into that throat area while we add a little more verbalization or a little more verbal communication to the effect of, I can feel that there's just a lot of feeling regarding this, and I just want to let you know that I'm here with you in the feeling. If you're willing to let the feeling keep moving, just do it. Do it. This is the shape of my body. Think about the shape of your body. This is the space around me and how much air there is around me. Think about the air around you. Just say, I'm here with you. If this feeling wants to move somewhere, I'm open. Let it move wherever in the body it's able to move.
It feels like it's sort of spreading like into my stomach.
Okay, superb. Okay, and just track the movement, like notice the movement, and just send a message down there affirming it. Yeah, yeah, I'm here with you. Just notice where you want to move, kind of like you're giving this part of you permission, as if it's a person inside of you that is getting access to this system that is your body. And there's a certain feeling that comes, Eva, with being deeply well received, being given permission to be. And I mean, a lot of the conflicts that arise within us, especially the ones that have a lot of intensity, they need that. They need being able to be received, somebody being present with them, somebody refusing to abandon them, and yet not invading them.
Mm.
Now, anything that's wobbly or shivery or quivery or like butterflies, that just is an indication that there's going to be some energetic release and movement. It can be encouraged. Encourage the shiver or the wobble or the movement. And as a hint, it doesn't always show up in the area where all the action was happening. Sometimes it shows up in other areas in the body. Now, when the feeling seems to have either departed or gone a lot lower, let me know.
It feels like it's back of my legs, I think.
Okay, we're back to the legs. Okay. And when it goes back to the legs, does it reduce in intensity or does it stay about the same?
It's reduced in intensity for sure.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and what I'll have you do is take your hands, I'll bring them up high so the camera can see, but put them down on your lap like this. And I'm going to have you stroke one way and then change hands and stroke the other way while you continue to notice where the feeling moves in the body. And keep breathing while you do so. Hands have a lot of nerve endings,
Mm.
and the parallel movements with the hands, sort of it's almost like something that was you were activating, you were working with it. It helps to finish it a little more. Now, this was the part that wanted to run. Does it feel like that flight energy, that wanting to jog or run or move?
I'd say that aspect of it is definitely weaker. Um,
Uh,
I'd say there's more like an 80% hesitance now, like it's kind of calmed down.
okay, so we've got. I mean, just because of the conflicting imperatives, we have a freeze response, but it's just not a complete freeze. It's just like the freeze response, thwarted
Right.
movement. Okay, so let's continue the dialogue. Before you stop the hand movements entirely, send a message down to that part of you saying, I feel like you still want to run, but not so much. I wonder if some of your need to expel the energy is being met. And the purpose of the question is mostly to affirm the separation between you and that part of you for the sake of creating a space for self-compassion. Um, and also to affirm the sort of non-abandonment relationship principle we're looking at here. Like, and I'm not leaving you. I am separate from you purposely, and I'm not leaving you.
It's interesting when you said I am separate from you just then, like immediately like panic happened.
Okay. So really, we've got some the attachment implications. Okay, the feeling of abandonment happens with brain spotting. The way we notice it sometimes is if you're brain spotting, if you have your eyes gazing at a certain thing and then you look beyond it, a lot of times when there's this sort of abandonment need, or worry or wound, it gets worse. Oh my gosh, I look beyond it and it's getting worse. When it's something that's
Mhm.
just really invasive, you look beyond it and suddenly it's like, oh wow, I feel more relieved by looking beyond it. And so we've got this abandonment, type thing going on. And so um this would probably be a really good time now to send a message to the effect of, it seems like you don't want me to leave you. You're worried that I might leave you. And this is a good time to also say something like, there probably have been times when I've left you, when I just moved on with other things. And I thought that I just needed to take care of those other things. I just want to say that I apologize. I didn't know that I was leaving you behind. See what kind of feeling comes up with that.
I feel like almost like a sense of sadness thinking about the times that I have left.
All right. Superb. I mean, this part needs to be heard in its sadness. The mourning of these sort of hidden sadnesses is so connective. It's such an important piece of becoming whole and feeling the really indomitable life force that sits behind and beneath the wound. Okay, a lot of our hidden wounds. Deep breath. Send a message to the effect of, yeah, your sadness is important to me. Your sadness is something that you should not be alone in. And if you were to guess, Eva, as to where this part of you is sort of speaking from, if you were to get a general feel for it, is it down in the legs or is it somewhere behind you or in you? Where is that part seeming to exist?
Sort of like my upper chest to my shoulders.
Up in this area. Okay, so really in the
Mm.
ventral vagal area where a lot of our relational activity happens. So like when we're adjusting to others, attuning to others.
Right.
All right. So this is a really important social part, I'm guessing. So deep breath in, send a message down to her. It's like thank you. Notice about how big she is. Sort of asking you to yourself how about her size, at least as you perceive her.
I wouldn't say it's big. She feels kind of like, I don't know, small, I guess.
All right.
Definitely
All
sort of
right.
like hidden, like to herself kind of thing.
Yeah, hidden. You don't feel like there's a lot of her. Okay, so deep breath in, send a message to her saying, "Oh, how old are you, by the way?" Just take the answer exactly as it comes. It's mostly to strengthen the relationship and create interest.
I don't have an exact age, but pretty young, like, I don't know, sort of 9 to 12 maybe.
Okay, it has that 9 to 12 feeling.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, and as you continue to breathe and turn attention back to her, um, you can ask her, "What year is it?"
I'm not really getting an answer to that one.
That's fine. And if there wasn't even a feeling with it, that's okay too. Sometimes it's not the most effective question to ask, but again, it heightens every question pretty much heightens both the relationship connection and the affirms the separation. You're basically creating a shell identity that holds these neural processes related to both the grief and the desire to get away. Because sometimes, honestly, we're in situations where it's like we just feel like, oh, this is too much, you know?
Mm.
And it doesn't have to be horribly traumatic for us to feel that, oh, and to wall off parts of us in the process. We learn to do it very early on in life,
Mm.
for the sake of being able to just handle the stimuli surrounding us. Um, and then really it just continues to develop over time in whatever way it develops. Everyone's pretty unique in how that all plays out. And so even though there's common factors we really all share, but deep breath in, and send a message to her saying, you know, there are some things that I've accomplished in life since your time that I would love to be able to show you in case you're interested, and just show the highlight reel, a few things that you're real proud of that you've accomplished, things that have kind of changed in your life and gone forward in your life, and just ask her, did you know about all those things?
Mm. I'm not really getting much of a response.
Okay. And it could be that we've abandoned her again to some extent, or that there's a defensive process that's come in. If like there was a little too much going on, and then in sort of a managerial process jumped in. And so it may be good to take another deep breath and just ask her, it's like, have I abandoned you again? You know, and just framing it in terms of abandonment. Sometimes you get a more intense response to the effect of, it's like, yeah, you went on and did all those things and left me behind. Other times it's just like, no, I'm talking to someone else now.
I don't think it's abandonment. It feels more like a defensive thing because, like with a lot of the things that I'm saying, like I've accomplished, um, she sort of had problems with and sort of doubted could ever happen. So, um, thinking about the accomplishments kind of makes me feel about um, the bad things that they've sort of stemmed from, or the initial bad thoughts related to them. So I think it's more of a defensive thing of, oh, I don't want to think about the bad side of it or like where it came from.
Okay, gotcha. And so whether we're looking at a wholly different set of neural processes, or you know if we're still fully talking to the same part of you, it may be good to just affirm that, yeah, there's a lot of hard pieces in that they're kind of heavy for you. And so it may be good to take a deep breath and send that message. Yeah, there was a lot of mixed feeling related to that, and this is a bit hard for you. And see what kind of response you get from sending that message.
It's hard to say. It's sort of like a relief or like a lessening of resistance, I suppose. Just being
Okay.
more like having a more open feeling, I think.
Okay, so chances are we're looking at validation, affirmation,
Mm.
being well received. Okay, and so when it comes to strengthening the relationship with this part of you, do what we ultimately want to get to is a deeper exchange of energy and information. That's what leads to transformation and integration. Is that more deep and rich exchange of energy and information between you and the part of you that's been walled off. Physically, that leads to a feeling of expansion and openness, more of a connection to the deeper underlying life force that seems to connect everything else, sort of a goodness that sits behind, within, and around everything good and bad. And so it may be good at this point to consider now, do you feel that this part of you has some trust for you? I guess trust towards you.
Mm.
It's hard if it's hard to tell, it's hard to tell.
I would say there is, but it's more from a standpoint of like hope, I guess.
Okay, so some hope, like anticipatory trust. Like, I hope that we can do something with this. That feeling
Mm,
of like, I can feel that something good could be happening here.
mm.
So that anticipation. So let's definitely work with that and do what we can to not abandon her in this moment. And so, do you feel open feelings towards this part of you, open interest to her needs and her wants?
Yeah, I would say definitely like um I feel like I don't know, for some people this might be their kind of first time connecting with that part, but for me it feels like I've spent a lot of time with her really.
Okay, and so let's see if this heightens the connection or not. You might want to affirm that with some, empowering this whole thing with your language system. Deep breath in, saying, I feel like we've been working on this for a while, really, even if we haven't been talking about it. And I would love to get to know you a little more deeply. Are you okay with that? Something to that effect. Let her ask her about that.
I feel like I've lost her a bit.
Okay, gotcha. So it's a bit much. And so she's really, yeah, okay, gotcha. That's fine. Deep breath in. Say, I'm sorry if I've been a bit too much for you. I'm sorry if I've kind of put a little more on you than you're ready for. Truly, I want to give you the space you need and see how she responds to that.
I'm getting sort of like a neutral feeling, like she's there but she's not quite responsive.
Okay, the jury's out on this one. We'll see. They're waiting. They'll see. No, so she's not 100% ready for response, but she is neutral. Okay. And let's propose something to her and just let her know that it is up to her, that we don't have to do this. Okay. We can propose to her that there are certain things that she's been feeling sad about that you felt earlier, that if she was not alone in it, if she was able to send some of the feelings of sadness into your bigger body, think of the breadth of your shoulders, the length of your legs, uh, that she wouldn't feel so alone in it, and that you want to feel her sadness. And see if she's like okay with the idea of sharing at least a bit of that sadness in your body so that she can test what it will be like. See if she's okay with that.
I sort of got like a feeling in my head then, like something was, I don't know, going from the chest area like into my head.
Okay, and so really when it comes to sort of the, um, activation and release cycling through the body, it was since so much of it moves through the vagal channel, a lot of times where it comes out, even though it usually will come through the arms or legs, a lot of times it will go up through the head. There's a feeling of moving upward. And so, um, let's try this. Send a message to her saying, I can feel this movement inside. I think it's important. Would you be willing to do that again and share more with me? Because she could be just trying you out and seeing if you're willing to receive it. And don't be afraid of the rise in activation if that happens. The funny little feelings that come up with that rise in activation and stuff like that. It's just basically saying, yes, yes, this is good.
I'm getting sort of like, I don't know whether the right word is like anger or like kind of spite in response from her.
Okay, gotcha. And out of curiosity, does it feel like it's directed towards you, or do you feel like it's just a feeling that is being noticed, that's sitting behind and coming out?
It feels like it's directed towards me. Like the feeling that I got in my head was kind of her going, "All right, then take it. Like try handle it," kind of
You
thing.
think you can handle this? Here you go.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. And so if since when there's a fight reaction or and we had the flight sort of thing before, when there's a fight reaction, we want to respect and receive it. We want to make room for it. Um, and it would probably be appropriate at this point, if you feel okay with this, to send a message of thank you. Wow, I can feel that anger, and I think whatever that is, it's important. I think whatever you're protecting, it's important, and I want to make room for it. That you shouldn't have to be alone. That there's somebody who makes room for that feeling, even if I've done things to hurt you. I want to know it and feel it.
I'm definitely feeling something like intensifying in my chest. It's, I don't really know how to describe it.
Okay, we might want to heighten the sympathetic nervous system arousal just a bit to keep it moving. Your two hands, take them wherever they're sitting and just start, yeah, doing non-parallel movements while you continue to focus on the feeling. Kind of encouraging, sending a message of yes, yes, but behind the anger, there's often something else, and that's fine. But the anger needs to be felt, finished, and that somebody is not alone in it. Somebody's responding to it. Somebody says, "Your anger is meaningful, you don't have to shut it off. I'm going to feel it with you because you're important and your needs are important, and whatever you're protecting is important." And it's okay that it comes in waves. It comes up, it shuts off, comes up and it shuts off. It's supposed to.
Right, I was gonna say it sort of felt like it'd gone away for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about it going away. just wait and see what comes next at that point. If the hand movements seem to be increasing the shutdown and the cutoff, and there's not another wave forthcoming, at that point, letting your hands rest, turning attention inside and breathing is fine. And out of curiosity, what seems to come up next?
Mm, I know it's sort of difficult to get a reading now.
Okay, gotcha. We have a defensive process. Nice deep breath. Send a message into whatever seems to be blocking. I mean, does it feel like something pushing down? Does it feel like something that's just kind of blanking out? What seems to be noticeable about this, the
It
structure of
feels
your
like,
experience?
yeah, it feels like it's sort of blanking out, like a numbness.
Okay, so it's blanking out. And so really when it comes to working with trauma, it's usually a lot more intense. Uh, but not always. It really is not always more intense than this. Okay. Um, but send a message into the blankness. Okay, as if you're speaking to just this blank area surrounding whatever it's surrounding. Uh, saying, thank you for showing up. Thank you for trying to protect. Thank you for the work you've done to keep things from being too much. Can I talk to you now? And just get to know you.
It doesn't feel like a personified thing this time. It sort of just feels like, emptiness.
Okay, and did the emptiness change at all when you spoke to it, or did it just sit completely stable where it was?
It just sat.
Okay, gotcha. And let's affirm what it does to a certain extent, so that it because when it comes to our defensive processes and our managerial processes, I mean they're really important. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just a lot of times they'll work a lot better and a lot more fluidly with our other processes when they're connected to the other processes. So it's really good to send a message back to it at this point saying, I know that there's nothing I can do to stop you from what you're doing, and I don't intend to stop you from what you're doing. I think what you're doing is important. I don't think you should be alone in it, though. I think that I should be able to consciously help you and stop doing whatever I've been doing to get in your way.
To be like, find myself apologizing to it.
Essentially, yes. It's like, I'm sorry you've had to work so hard because of what I've been doing to push at you,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, we are apologizing. A lot of it has to do with reconnecting through apology.
Sort of feeling like it's not exactly slipping away, but less dense.
It's less dense. Okay, gotcha. And so, When you say less dense, does it just feel like it's just that blockage that you experience, that sort of blanking out or neutrality is just less blank?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. And so that's probably, I'm guessing, an implication that the implication is that we've allowed it to be. It doesn't have to push against you quite as hard. It doesn't have to push you out as much. And so let's try taking it a little bit further and just asking, was there something more, that you were ready to show me that I wasn't ready to receive before? Is there someone behind you, perhaps, that you felt that you had to keep me away from?
I'm getting the impression that it's that feeling from before, but I don't know if that's just because that's the only personified kind of thing that I could be looking for.
Okay, great. Then what we'll do is we'll do some sort of somatic pendulation between the two things that you've noticed. Okay, because there was that feeling from before and there was this one. A lot of times our processes don't fully collaborate one with another because there's a lack of complete integration. And so sometimes this can help. Let's try it. I'll have you start shifting awareness between what you perceived as that blankness and then what you perceived as that other feeling. Even if you can't get a complete sensory acknowledgement of it, even if you can't fully feel them both, I'm going to ask you to start breathing a little deeply, a little bit slowly, and start shifting awareness to the blankness, the neutrality, and then over to that not so neutral part of you that we were working with that had that run of emotions earlier, and just going back and forth. Once you can kind of perceive the idea of one and then perceive the idea of the other, you just shift.
Interesting how, in, let me try that again. Interestingly, I've kind of found myself found myself identifying it as like sadness. Like when I'm trying to do the pendulum thing, I'm going, okay, think of the blank thing, and I'll think of sadness, and I'll think of the blank thing. So I think even subconsciously, I've just labeled it as that for whatever reason.
Uh-huh. And so really it's like this the it's to you this part is sadness. We had that surge of sort of snarky anger that sort of came up for a
Yeah.
moment. But ultimately, I mean, a lot of times when I've done anger, like working with people that have anger issues or a lot of flaring up anger, when we access the anger and it starts discharging whatever method we're using for doing that, usually there is a feeling of sadness behind it, and that's the core of what seems to be this part. Once the sadness is actually felt and finished, it's more like the part is repurposed. It's like, oh my gosh, I can feel more of me now, is what it seems to be saying and how it acts. It's like somebody felt my sadness with me. And now instead of being sad, really there's this childlike gift that it takes back to the system, you know? Suddenly the person finds himself being more spontaneous or more creative or less threatened by other people's needs. Whatever it is that they experience, the reason why is because integration was occurring, you know, parts connecting with other parts, neural processes walled off for defensive reasons, connecting with other parts. And so in your case, you've noticed it's like if I start shifting my awareness, I keep treating it like it's sadness. I think I'm making a caricature. She's deeper than that, but I'm calling her sadness. Am I hearing you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so, typically, when there's when you're shifting awareness between parts, whether it really comes from the relationship between the different neural processes or not, I have no idea. Except for there's a release of energy that starts to occur in the system. There's a feeling of a bit of arousal, and then a release that happens next that leads to these results uh, that usually we're going for ultimately, becoming more emotionally flexible, more resilient, more socially engaged, those sorts of things. And I'm curious, was there any sort of arousal or energetic movement in the body when you were shifting awareness between them?
Mm. It sort of felt like physically I was going from my head when I was thinking of sadness, and then to my chest when I was thinking of the blank, sort of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, if anything, it was just like I have these identifiable areas, when I was shifting awareness.
Mm.
Yeah. And so are either of them still identifiable from a feeling standpoint?
I think the blankness is still sort of there, but the other one less so.
Okay. Gotcha. And so let's just try this to see if we stimulate further dialogue for a moment. If you send a message into the blankness saying something to the effect of, I think that there's a sad part of us that still needs us. Are you willing to stay with me while I reach out to her? And just see what kind of feeling comes up or what sort of thing comes up.
Mm. I'm sort of getting like more of a cognitive response to that, like kind of almost a voice kind of saying like, yes, I'm just trying to help you, like, yeah, if it's gonna help you kind of.
Okay, great. Go with that. Well, there's a value in just assuming that the cognitions that come up or any response that comes up is an answer. Just like we assumed that the blankness was an answer. That usually creates, because what we're going for is deeper attunement to yourself. The ultimate value of doing so is not only that you will get more and more used to sort of releasing blockages within you to feeling your life force and your connection with you, but also that your ability to connect with others will expand greatly. Your ability to intuitively feel with them, and sometimes even when you're not noticing a feeling, to mindfully act in a way that's going to serve you and them, it's going to increase. And so if you were to take a deep breath now and reach out to the part that seemed sad, I think she was more, you noticed her, perceived her more in the head area. Is that correct?
Mm. Yeah.
And just ask her, is it okay that I'm talking to you right now? Are you willing to share some more of your feeling with me? Or is this a bad time for you to do that?
I'm getting like a sense of sort of emotional exhaustion. I don't know if that's me as a whole or if that's like kind of her specifically. Like,
Right. We're beating a dead horse here. Why do we continue to come back to this? Why must we continue to come back to this? I'm exhausted from all of this. And just go ahead and invite her to get some rest and say, I'd love to give you some space and give you some rest. It sounds like that's what you really need. If I could give you anything to give you the sort of rest that you need, what would you want me to give you? And just take the answer exactly as it comes.
the answer I'm getting is sort of a request for space.
Space, great. Go ahead and send a message of super. How much space? Show me how much space so that I can give you that right now. And you're going to just basically give it imaginally to her.
I'm sort of like imagining it as like a visual thing in my head, and sort of the response is just like kind of pointing to the other side of the room. So I'm not quite like out of the room, I'm not gone. Like I'm still there with her, but I'm just like at a distance.
Okay, gotcha. So she doesn't want you to leave her. She wants there to be, like, you doing your thing, staying in contact, basically. Okay, and, go ahead and ask her to show you. It's like, there's probably a few more things that if they were here, in this space, that it would really be restful for you. Show me what's restful. Show me what's peaceable.
I don't know if I'm getting a particularly significant response to that. It's just kind of, I think, 'cause I'm seeing it in a visual way. I'm I immediately think of like a bed or something like that.
Great. Okay. And so let's pretend that we have this all-powerful ability to give her whatever she seems to be asking about. So go ahead and put a bed there in your mind. Like it's like, great, here's this bed. Thank you. Got the bed here. And then just ask her what else.
I'm not really getting anything else. It's kind of like visually she's just kind of crawled under the covers and that's where she is now. Like,
It's like, I'm in this bed. I need nothing else. Stay away
yeah.
from me and just do your thing. All right. So go ahead and thank her. Say thank you, and then ask her, it's like, I'm gonna go on with my day now. How about you just talk to me whenever you need me? And see what she says to that.
I'm getting like, yeah, an affirmative response.
Okay. All right. And so so now as we move on to other things, when it comes to developing a working relationship with this sort of part you've created, that's part of the value of that is it can increase the integrative sort of action inside of you.
Mm,
On a physical level, it's like stuff starts opening up. Um, there's the changes in just emotional tone, the ability to shift between emotional states more flexibly and easily. There are
mm,
times to get excited or scared or amorous or all sorts of different feelings that we can have, and times for it to calm down and to shift to another state,
mm,
to prime for other things, to get ready for other things. And a lot of times our circumstances demand, either, really intensely activated states, or really just carefully nuanced, partly activated states and mixed states. Is it possible to be both scared and feel a heightened sense of joy and anticipation? Well, yeah. A lot of times we have that mixed state. Is it okay to sometimes feel um, both calm and sad? Yeah. You
mm,
know, is it okay to sometimes feel angry and this sort of delightful, excited feeling with it? Well, yeah, especially if you're going in for a fight or a debate or some kind of an advocacy situation, you know, to be
yeah.
like angry and loving it. And are there times for us to stop being angry and loving it because it's just not the right thing? you know and so being able to fluidly shift through those things, and sometimes to have these mixed states with other people because they need somebody to feel it with them. It's your heritage as a human, and it's more fully claiming your heritage, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
No, yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah.
And
Because
really uh
sorry.
you go ahead.
I was just saying, like, you were saying about how some feelings you can feel together at the same time. It reminds me of this sort of fun fact that some people like to throw out, like a psychology fun fact of when you're feeling nervous, it's the same physiological response as excitement. So you can sort of trick yourself into saying, "Well, I'm not nervous, I'm excited," because it feels the same. So that's what that reminded me of.
Yeah, and really when it comes to going up the vagal ladder, it's a lot of times when we start to feel arousal, what's the natural next step? Well, a lot of times we're the next step is a discharge of energy or a release, and you know that awkward, nervous, funny feeling in a roller coaster before you have the big rush of going down or something like that. Um, a lot of times the people who will put their hands up and scream to heighten the experience and complete the release,
Mm,
to make sure the vocal centering of screaming, the catharsis and the release that comes with it is very pleasurable. And so when you're anticipating pleasure on the cusp of just, oh, an aggravating feeling, yeah, it is really useful. I think it was Fritz Perls who said something to the effect of, uh, the difference between fear and excitement is breathing, It's
right.
like 'cause it's like
Yeah.
if you're consciously doing the act of breathing, saying this is going somewhere, it's going to lead to this feeling of release that leads a person to say that was excitement, you know?
Right.
That was this anticipation of joy, that wasn't fear. Um, and really anybody who's a performer, who gets this feeling of exhilaration on the cusp of finishing their performance, you know, and then rides it with whatever, the cheer of the audience, the joy of having finished it or whatever. It can be pleasurable enough that they'll want to repeat the experience again and again, you
Mm,
know, eventually welcome the feelings of fear. And truly, when you're in a field where you may be helping people who have suffered a lot of trauma, a lot of attachment wounding, who have had things that were too hard to face alone, and you've had the exhilaration of feeling the twisting in your gut, the rise in your shoulders, the feeling of like, oh my goodness, impending doom is coming upon me, and then feeling it discharge and rising strong with them. That's exhilarating. It's the kind of thing where you'll become more and more welcoming of negative feelings and just recognizing that there is a pathway towards finishing and release and a deep feeling of forgiveness of this moment for being what it is, and a deep
mm,
feeling of forgiveness sometimes for the circumstances as they are, and a feeling of empowerment related to moving on with life, because the pleasure that comes in the wake of that, the wholeness that is finally felt in the wake of that, um, is something that can move a person to say, "There's more I can do with my life, and I'm not quite so scared of it anymore."
yeah. Oh, cool.
Well, anyway, it was a pleasure talking with you,
Hmm.
and I will end this recording.
Okay.